Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. On behalf of the organizer of tonight's program, the Islamic Propagation Society International Penang, my name is Dr. Amir Shah. I am your chairperson for today, and I welcome all of you with the universal greeting, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, which means, may peace, mercy and blessings of Allah Almighty be upon all of you. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, all praise is due to Allah, the one true God, besides whom there is none other, worthy of worship, who is the cherisher, sustainer of the entire universe. Peace and blessings upon his beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, final messenger sent to the whole of humanity, who is mercy to the entire creation. Respected President of IPSI, Tuan Haji Kamaruddin Abdullah, trustees and AJKs of IPSI, staff, volunteers, our honorable and distinguished guest and speaker, Sheikh Nurudeen Lemu, brothers and sisters. The subject for tonight's topic, inshallah, that our Sheikh will be speaking about in our very own Sheikh Ahmadidat Auditorium will be Discover Yourself, Know Your Lord. I would now like to call upon our President of IPSI, Tuan Haji Kamaruddin Abdullah, to deliver his welcoming speech. We welcome Tuan Haji Kamaruddin Abdullah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatih وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ أَمَّا بَعْدُ. I remind you with these verses from the Quran. O you believe, perfect your piety, fear Allah, die not except in Islam. This is our reminder from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We praise Allah for the bounties that we have tonight, that we're given another opportunity to have a majlis ilm, knowledge. Knowledge is light that can differentiate between wrong and right, between the truth and the falsehood. We are living in an age that's full of fitan. One of the fitan is misconception. There are millions of our not yet Muslim brothers and sisters have been shunned away from the beauty and the truthful of Islam because of this misconception. I'm sharing with you, inshallah, Sheikh Nurudeen Lemu will explore better. At times we have lot of potential converts and reverts are being shunned away from this misconception. And the man to speak this tonight is our beloved Sheikh Nurudeen Lemu. who came 17 years back to Penang in a very place called Complex Masyarakat Penyayang. He was a bit young, very young that time. Was he 19, 20 years old now? I mean, that time, 20 years old, Sheikh? A bit more. So, but your heart is still 20, I believe. His heart is still 20. My heart is 18, so don't worry. I want to be young. Brothers and sisters, do not let the misconception, do not let the behavior of Muslim become your enemy, and you took that as an enemy for your own salvation. Because Sheikh Nurudeen Lemu, when people want to become Muslim, they say, these people behave like this. Why should I accept Islam? This is profound. This Muslim have cheated me. Why should I accept Islam? So these are the questions arise. Number two, brothers and sisters, we praise Allah for this opportunity, and we thank, not enough to thank. We give salutation to our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We praise Allah for all this opportunity, and we thank Prophet. We are today Muslim because of this man called Muhammad ibn Abdullah. Today we are Muslim in Malaysia because this man called Muhammad ibn Abdullah. When they offer everything to him, Sheikh will touch this also. I love that part of the islands in Singapore. Don't forget to mention Sheikh. He'll enlighten me, and I will bring that to New Zealand. Where was I? I forgot. The island? What was that I started to say?
We are here as Muslim because of Muhammad bin Abdullah.
Oh Allah, how can I forget so fast? No. I wanted to tell you something very important. Something taken away from me now. What was that? Can anybody tell me? I give you the Quran to you. A translation to you. I wanted to tell you something about the Prophet.
He was very offered everything.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. So you don't deserve the Quran. You already have the Quran. Sheikh, tell me, because Sheikh is the teacher. When this man Muhammad sallallahu has been offered the best of best, what we like in this world, we like money. It's been offered to him. We men, we like woman. Doctor, we like woman. Offered to him. And the third, until today they don't want to leave them chair. The third, what is that?
Power.
The power, yes. We will make you the king. But what did he say? If you give me the sun on my right and the moon on my left, I shall not live until whether I whether victorious or I perish. For that, brothers and sisters, 23 years, the suffering that he went through, none of us can go through. I can share to you because I'm not a speaker today, I'm just a welcomer. One occasion, his own daughter came with anger and showing the stomach, tied up by stone. The same he responded, the Habibullah Rahman, Muhammad ibn Abdullah, the messenger of Allah. If you are a lover to somebody, you can sacrifice anything. Now he's a lover of the Creator, the most merciful, the most rich, As-Samad. Allah can change Uhud to become diamonds and gold for Muhammad ibn Abdullah. But he prepared to starve for us. What in return we're going to thank this man Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Dear Dr. Amir, the chairman, praise Allah, praise salutation to the Prophet, to my beloved Vice President, Dr. Amir, the trustees, the AJKs, the members, the staff, the hard-working staff, volunteers, donors, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. Once again, we welcome you to IPSI Sheikh Ahmadida Auditorium to have the blessing of ilm, knowledge, with our beautiful guest speaker, a distinguished scholar. MashaAllah, tabarakallah, Allah has bestowed him a lot of wisdom that he's going to share with you. And Sheikh Nurudeen Lemu, he doesn't come alone, he came with his wife, so be careful. So he came with his wife, ahlan wa sahlan bikum. And finally, before I leave the podium, once again I thank all of you. And be prepared for our next program that's coming. Inshallah, Dr. Amir will be sharing with you. And finally, brothers and sisters, mid-October, somewhere October, inshallah, bi'iznillah, with God's permission, the governor of the state will come and do the open ceremony of this building. Even though we have 2-3 years, we are there, but yet we do not get the green light until today. Alhamdulillah, some green light coming up, some shade is coming up. So please, all of you welcome to join us. And also, we welcome you to be our members, not just members, help us wherever you can. With this, Sheikh Nurudeen Lemu, thank you very much. And Sheikh Nurudeen Lemu have reserved some beautiful programs. We know him for a long time because I'm not prepared to take the risk. He is willing to come again and teach us the intelligence of Sharia. And mashallah, tabarakallah, how to assess evidence. He will share with you. This is where we Muslim lacking. We Muslim lacking. Imam Shafi said this. Imam Ahmad bin Ambal said this. And sometimes they contradict each other. Or not just contradict each other, the lay people like us get confused. So this is the man that can bring some new, knowledge, how to concile it and how to, to give and take. Lapang dada, this is very important. Inshallah, if you can give me commitment, at least 30 people. 30 people from Penang, if you can give me that commitment, we can do a program of 5 days. Wow, that's big, 5 days. For Penang, yes, not for Kuala Lumpur. So actually, brothers and sisters, our team is prepared to bring you scholars to give you long-term knowledge. But we fear the end of the day, and only 2 people comes. You must understand, these scholars are coming far. No doubt they do not like to see big audience, but we must empower them. Can you imagine only 1 people sitting and he's coming all the way from Nigeria? Better he'd give the talk in Nigeria. Am I correct? Right? The crowd is important. So please enhance more information about our program throughout Penang and let scholars, inshallah, and I tell you last week, I told you something I reserve for you next year. But if I were to tell you, then you get excited. I'm not going to tell you until you come back full, I give you that announcement. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah, Tuan Haji Kamaruddin Abdullah. Brothers and sisters, for the benefit of those who are meeting Sheikh Nurudeen Lemu for the first time, allow me to share with you his biography. Sheikh Nurudeen Lemu is the Assistant Administrative Secretary and Welfare Projects Inspector of the Islamic Education Trust in Mina, Nigeria. He serves as the Assistant Director and Research Supervisor at the Da'wah Institute of Nigeria. He was previously a technical advisor to the Nigerian Environmental Society, an advisor to the Voice of the Voiceless Network. Over the years, Sheikh has worked at the Liberian refugee camp in Nigeria itself, the International Islamic Charitable Organization, and the Noor Al-Huda Islamic College in Sydney, Australia. He holds a bachelor degree in agriculture from Ahmadu Bello University in Nigeria and a master's degree in resource management from Edinburgh University, UK. He is a fellow of the inaugural class of the Africa Leadership Initiative West Africa and a member of the Aspen Global Leadership Network. That's a bit about Sheikh Nurudeen. Before I leave the podium, brothers and sisters, I would like to remind everyone to switch your mobile phones into silent mode. And for those who are right at the back, you can occupy the seats at the front. With this, I invite our distinguished speaker, Sheikh Nurudeen Lemu, to share with us the title of his talk, Discover Yourself, Know Your Lord. We welcome Sheikh.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم, peace be upon you all. Alhamdulillah, it's been many years since I met Brother Kamaruddin, and there are times when I would unfortunately come to Penang and he's not around, but that's life. The topic inshallah we'll be looking at is discover yourself, which really means knowing yourself better as a means to knowing your creator. And very briefly, it's really about the purpose of life. If you can understand yourself better, your talents, the gifts you've been given, the kind of reasoning you operate, the things that you are passionate about, the context of the society you live in and which part you focus on, and the kind of things that naturally worry you, which seem not to naturally worry other people. With that, you understand a bit better the little department in life that your Creator expects you to play a role in. This world is not Jannah, it's not paradise. Alhamdulillah, it's not Jahannam either. It's not hell, thank God. Of course, we would like to ask ourselves, why would a perfect Creator not create a perfect earth? Simply, if it was perfect, there would be nothing for us to do. It is out of His own plan and purpose that He has put us on a planet where there's a lot to be done. And some people have greater influence than others. But kullukum ra'in, as the Prophet ﷺ said, every one of you has responsibilities. Every one of you is a person of influence, or what you would call a shepherd or a leader. And everyone is mas'ulun, is responsible for his or her flock. In other words, everybody has responsibilities, and everyone is expected to fulfill those responsibilities. There are certain general purposes of our existence. By general, you mean when somebody says, where is KL, and you're pointing in a general direction. Exactly how would you go there day to day? You would have to sort that out. What is your general purpose in life is mentioned in different ways in the Quran. And as you try to build yourself to fulfill that purpose, you will understand your Creator even better. And as you get better at fulfilling your purpose, you actually get not physically, because Allah is already closer to you than the artery of your own heart. So there's no, I want to get closer to Allah as if He's already far. Closer just means He is closer to your mind. You're more conscious of Him. You sense His presence more. It's not Allah is far away. When we go to meet Allah, no, He's already with you. Are you conscious of that? We live with certain delusions which allow us to, live our days in a normal way. The idea that Allah is far. How would it be if you could actually see Allah? I know a lot of us would have liked that. It'll save the problem of atheists, right? There He is. And you've got an angel on your right and an angel on your left. You're trying to explain that to atheists. If you could see them, it'll make it much easier. Would it be better if you could see them? Would you feel comfortable going to have a bath? You know, what are you looking at? When you're saying something, you're angry, you know, and your angel on your left starts getting busy. What now? My car is stuck, I need to push it. Well, you know, you're just going to stand there looking. How much interference in our responsibilities would we start to expect? For some who go through eye surgery and for the first time are able to see, you know, sunrise is miraculous. It's unbelievable. For those who wake up and see it every day and have been seeing it since they were born, oh, you know, it's a big deal. You've been seeing Allah every day from the time you were born. How much respect would you have for Allah? What are those things? You know, they say sometimes familiarity can build contempt. But for some, there's some logical explanation, so there's nothing great about it. Would God consciousness actually work if you could see Allah? Would you feel comfortable with the free will you have? Imagine just as a child or as a teenager, you're on your Facebook and your parents are up there. What are you looking at? Oh, just carry on, just looking. How do you feel? No problem?
Uncomfortable.
No. You know, some of us have these helicopter parents, they call them. Always behind you, always watching. And you get frustrated. Leave me alone. Don't you trust me? Is question number one.
Yeah.
Like if every time you looked up you could see an angel watching you, how much freedom do you think you would have? As we learn more about our purpose and our religion and the guidance we've been given, we understand our Creator better. And as we understand our Creator better, it also helps us understand our purpose better. I'd like to touch on 5 or 6 main points today. I'll keep them to 5. I won't use PowerPoint. I'd like to find a way of trying to make sure you remember as much as possible. So we'll do it the old way. We'll use the board. And I'll most likely just raise my voice because I'll be spending more time there. Or do I move with the mic? Okay, cool. Okay. There are 5 main principles. I was inspired by an article by a scholar called Sheikh Farooq Abdullah. He's a convert to Islam, or revert as some prefer, but a great scholar. And he wrote this article called Living Islam with Purpose. It's available online. Living Islam with Purpose. And a lot of what I'm going to say is just my adaptation of the points he mentioned in that article. So if you're interested in what I've said in writing, what I'm saying in writing, you'll actually get more from that article. I am rearranging some of the points he made to make them easier to remember. But if it's just contents-wise, I think you will find a lot of what I'm saying there. There are a few other points I've added. I presented a topic presented this topic in Singapore, where Brother Kamaruddin was unfortunately there. And so he said, I want you to repeat this in Penang when you come. And I'm like, repeat, I'm tired of listening to myself. I like something different. But I said, you know, what did you think was most useful? And he mentioned a few points, so I'll, inshallah, make sure we don't leave anything out. First principle. So I'd like you to remember the word trees. The first T is about trusting reason. Trusting reason. R is about respecting dissent. Okay? Respecting differences. E, emphasizing social obligations. Emphasizing social obligations. They're individual obligations, so you may just say emphasizing obligations. But I'm more concerned about social obligations, because most of us do too much of our individual obligations. We pray, we fast, and we kind of think we've done it all. And we forget there's a whole department called Fardu Kifaya, social obligations. The other E is about embracing maxims. Embracing maxims. Maxims are short sentences that summarize a lot. So we'll look at 5 maxims that more or less summarize the whole of Islam in 5 sentences. And the last one, S, is about setting priorities. Setting priorities. So these are the 5 main principles we'll be touching, and understanding how we can discover ourselves better through these 5 principles, and through them understand how we can fulfill our purpose better, and inshallah get closer to Allah. And understand, by appreciating the purpose, we understand more about the designer of that purpose. I'll start with T, R, E, E, S. Does that remind us of a tree?
Yes.
That's good. I had thought of this earlier. Make the fruits look more red. All right. The first point that comes out of here is, what is it? Trusting reason. Reason is a gift from Allah. And Allah describes the gift of reasoning as something through which we understand His revelation. In fact, Allah describes His revelation in the Quran and the revelations in creation, the ayat of revelation and the ayat of creation, as being لِقَوْمِ يَعْقِلُونَ, for people who will use their aql. لِقَوْمِ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ, for people who would think. لِأُولِ الْأَلْبَابِ, for people with lub. Lub means brains. لِقَوْمٍ يَتَدَبَّرُونَ, for people who will contemplate. Allah assumes that this revelation that is coming to you, you will be mentally alert to benefit from it. One of the interesting points about the relationship between reason and revelation is explained by a great scholar, Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, where he says the relationship between reason and revelation is similar to the relationship between the eyes and light. To say you are going to use your reasoning and you don't want revelation is like somebody moving around with their eyes open but in the dark. To say you are going to go with revelation and I'm not going to be reasonable is like moving around in broad daylight with your eyes shut. You will find the furniture with your shin. You will bump into things. Eyes are a gift as light is a gift, and they work together. Quran is a gift to guide you, but so is reasoning a gift to guide you, not just to the Quran, but to guide you in learning the lessons and applying them to your life. In fact, Allah asks a question, are people like cattle that they don't think? There is a concept in Islam called taklif. What you call maturity. That a person whose reasoning is not working well is not considered liable in Islamic law. So they even have a hadith, number of them actually, but one hadith where the Prophet said, the pen that records sins does not record sins for 3 people. A child. Why? Because he can't reason well until he has reached an age of maturity. A person sleeping. Why? He can't reason. He's not conscious. So what he does in that state, it's not really his fault. A third, an insane person. Somebody who has got a mental problem until they gain their sanity. In other words, the whole concept of right and wrong, this is a sin, this is not a sin, doesn't apply if your reasoning isn't functioning well. There are certain things called the maqasid, and we will come back to this subject. These refer to the objectives or purposes of Islamic law. Does anybody know these? Can you remember one of them? Protection and enhancement of life. Very good. Another one?
Religion.
Property. Religion. That's 3. Aql. What is aql? Intellect, reasoning. That the protection and the promotion of the mind and the faculty to think is actually a whole objective of Sharia. Are we together on this? Yeah. So it's not a joking issue. It's actually a whole of the 5 classical maqasid that all schools of scholars take. They call them the daruriyat hamsa, those absolute 5 necessities. The protection of life, the protection of faith and its enhancement, the protection and enhancement of family or lineage, the protection and enhancement of property, and the protection and enhancement of the mind, of aql. It is because of the protection of the mind that alcohol is prohibited. Why? Because it befogs the mind. So we find the protection and the enhancement of the mind is another objective of reasoning. But scholars have been a bit afraid of allowing reasoning to lose its way. And so they have tried to find a proper role, position for reasoning that makes it sound. There's good reasoning, there's bad reasoning. So there's a whole subject where scholars are taught what you would call critical thinking. Not just logic, but the interplay and of reason and revelation. It's a subject where juristic reasoning is regulated. When a jurist is reasoning, what is that called? Anybody? Juristic reasoning? Ijtihad. Okay. When the Quran is silent on an issue, and the Sunnah is silent on an issue, and the Sahaba knew nothing about it, didn't exist at their time, you still want to know, is this in line with or against the Quran and the Sunnah? But how are you going to answer that question if the Quran and Sunnah is silent on this issue? What is the kind of reasoning that the Sahaba operated with? By the time they have spent their lives, the Quran being revealed in their presence, they spend their lives with the Prophet passes away. When a new issue comes, how do they reason? That type of reason guided by the Quran and the Sunnah and the objectives of Sharia. That kind of reasoning is called ijtihad. And a mujtahid was the highest qualification a scholar could reach. That's the highest qualification. That was the highest qualification where it now became okay for you to do ijtihad. Ijtihad meant the Quran was silent, or the Sunnah was silent, or they were ambiguous on a topic, and you're going to come up with an answer representing the Prophet in his absence. That's not a joke. So they developed a field called Usul al-Fiqh. The principles, the usul, the roots, the foundation of fiqh. Fiqh comes from the Arabic word faqaha. Faqaha means to understand. This subject dealt with the foundations of our understanding. How we understood things. What was considered evidence, and how strong was it? And how certain were we about any particular evidence? It's a big field. But the key point here is the scholars realized there was the need to have criteria for what was right and what was wrong. The Quran said something was wrong, no problem. It's wrong. If the Sunnah said something was wrong, no problem. When there was silence, what did we do next? So they have these tools for thought. They call them the secondary sources of Sharia. One is qiyas. Okay, we'll not go into detail, but one is qiyas. Qiyas means analogical reasoning. Reasoning by analogy. Alcohol intoxicates. Cocaine intoxicates. If alcohol is haram because it intoxicates, then logically, and by analogy, cocaine should be prohibited. But alcohol harms. Cocaine harms more. So should the punishment of alcohol also go there? No. We have enough of an analogy to say this is intoxicating and it is haram. But when it comes to what punishment, this is greater than this. It's not Quran or Sunnah that said, what do you do about cocaine? It's logic. It's understanding why was this prohibited. And so when we look at this field, another point that scholars make, and we will make this point quickly, is reasoning plays a role in the verification of the authenticity of text. Prophet said, that doesn't make me follow it. How am I sure the Prophet said? There's a whole field of hadith sciences that have been established with logical criteria that can mathematically determine, is this from the Prophet or is it not? And if you say it is, with what level of certainty? They wanted a hadith to pass at least 5 criteria. Number 1, at least 4. It should have a chain of narrators of people linked with each other. You can't just tell me somebody, and where did you get it from? I tell you, I got it from the Prophet. Who did you get it from? You don't believe me? Who did you get it from? You don't trust me? Now I don't trust you. Yeah. So they want a complete chain down to a Tabi, down to a Sahaba who said the Prophet said. That's number 1. Number 2, they want a chain where everybody is a person of integrity. So they were interested in the bibliographies of these people. Who are they? What was said about them? So there's a whole subject called Ilm al-Rijal, where they study the biographies of the individuals in the hadith. There's no hadith that is called Sahih and people don't know this person. The moment they don't know that person, they will say, we don't know this person. That already weakens the hadith and it's no more Sahih. It belongs to another category. Or, we trust everybody, but there's a missing person. What do you mean missing person? Well, Hassan al-Basri, who was a Tabi, said the Prophet said, but Hassan al-Basri didn't meet the Prophet. Yeah, but he met Ibn Mas'ud, but he didn't say I got it from Ibn Mas'ud. He said I got it from he said the Prophet said. Yeah, who told him? We don't know. They call that a mursal hadith, broken chain. Why? Because it's not complete. They don't call that sahih. So they want a complete chain. They want everybody in the chain of known integrity. They want that this chain comes up with information that doesn't contradict anything that we are certain about. If it contradicts any historical facts, then we will not trust this line. Human error somewhere. If this hadith contradicts something in the Quran, sorry, human error must have happened. We're not going into this field, but basically, they will look at what they call the matan, the content of the hadith. What is it actually saying? And even when a hadith has passed all those tests, yes, this is a full chain. Yes, they are of sterling character. And yes, what was said doesn't contradict anything in the Quran or the Sunnah. They ask, do we have any other witnesses? They ask, is the hadith garib? Garib means only one person heard it from the Prophet. Or is it aziz? We've got up to 2 independent chains, at least. Or is it mashhur? 3 or more chains. Or is it mutawatir? So many multiple independent chains that it is impossible for people to have fabricated it even if they wanted. Then they say that's a mutawatir. That has reached the kind of standard the Quran has reached. Mutawatir. So many independent chains, so many narrations for every single verse that nobody argues on, is this a verse of the Quran or not? Whether they are Maliki, Shafi, Hanafi, Hanbali, Shia, Zaidi, Ibadi, you say bring the Quran, recite anything, anybody can complete the recitation of the ayah. That's the Quran. Without spending too much time, reasoning plays a role in determining authenticity of text. In understanding the meaning, tafsir. What does it mean? Why? Because it was said in human language. So should we take it metaphorically here or literally? Should we interpret this on its own, or should we put it in the context of the whole verse? Reasoning plays a role in trying to understand the hikmah, the wisdom, and the purposes of maqasid. Reasoning plays a role in the application of revelation. A verse of the Quran says, you cut the hand of a thief. That's Quran. Nobody argues about that. Umar bin Khattab understands the Quran more than any of us. During the time of Umar bin Khattab, there's difficulty. It's a period of famine. So he suspends the cutting of the hands of thieves. Why? Because he knows applying that punishment in this context would not meet the objective and the wisdom behind the law. Some other people steal. They stole a camel and they slaughtered it. And they were apprehended, they were caught. They were brought to Umar, he was caliph at the time. Umar tried to find out why they stole. And it transpires these people were slaves of one gentleman, or not, maybe not too gentle a man. And he wasn't taking good care of them. Umar asked the person whose camel was stolen, what's the value of your camel? He says 400 dirhams. Umar tells the master, these people stole because you are not taking care of them. I will give you a fine, pay the man 800 dirhams. Hopefully, you will not repeat your mistake again. If these people repeat stealing for the same reason, it is your hand that will be cut. You would have said, wait a minute, who stole? These guys stole. Quran says if you steal, cut the hand. What's this complication of the word, just cut their hands? But reasoning that helps you understand the wisdom of the law, helps you understand when to apply it. Reasoning also played a role in the defense of truth. When people got reasoning wrong, influenced by one philosophical argument or the other, and got lost, how did you pull them back on the straight path? By using superior reasoning. So when people started getting confused by Greek philosophy and missing their way, what scholars like Abu Hamid al-Ghazali did was to go and study that for at least 2 years until the scholars of that field acknowledged he is a scholar in philosophy. Then he wrote his book, The Refutation of the Philosophers. And he refuted their arguments. Why and how? Because he was now an authority in that kind of reasoning. And he could now use superior reasoning to bring them back on track. So, point number one that I would like us to remember here, trusting reasoning. The more reasonable you can be, the better you can reason. The better you can guide your reasoning, the better you understand Allah's will. Otherwise, you come up with, forgive my language, stupid teachings, and you still want to say that's Islam. You know, like everybody can like, what's wrong? It's in the Quran, it's in the Hadith. And why are you insisting? Because you are suspending the use of a gift that scholars have validated as an objective of Sharia and as being guided. The second point we'll be looking at is respecting dissent. Dissent means disagreement. divergent opinions. Let me ask a question. How does it feel like to be wrong about something? How does it feel like to be wrong? Anybody?
Ashamed.
Ashamed? No teachers here? You don't remember that brilliant student in your class, what he used to do? When you argue and make sure you prove you were wrong, how does it feel like to be wrong?
Furious.
Embarrassed, bad, you feel disgraced, regret. Is that how you felt? Is that really how you feel like when you were wrong? Or that's how you feel like when somebody shows you you are wrong, when you realize you're wrong? Then you feel bad. Before you realized you were wrong, how did you feel?
Furious.
Curious? Did you feel bad? Before you realized you were wrong, how did it feel?
Confident.
Very confident. That's why you're arguing. That's why you're even raising your voice. That's why you're saying, just keep quiet, listen to me. Just listen. You know, why? You feel you're right. And after all of that, and the person is saying, ooh, okay. You know, now you start feeling stupid. But before you feel you're wrong, being wrong feels the same as being right, unfortunately. So as you move through life, when people differ from you, who's right and who's wrong? The more you learn, the more you realize how right or wrong you are. Like every year you spend in school, you learn more things. Just take a course in politics and suddenly, I didn't know that's what it was like. I used to think wrongly. Every new book you read, you find out where you are wrong. Okay, because you read it in private, it's not embarrassing. The more you learn, the more you find out how many mistakes you have, how many misconceptions you have. Many non-Muslims don't believe they have misconceptions about Islam. Yeah. Let me ask a question here. Do Muslims have misconceptions about Islam? Yes. Do non-Muslims have misconceptions? Do you have any misconceptions?
Yes.
Any examples? Just one example of a misconception you have. Wait a minute. Do you have misconceptions about Islam? Yes. Why is it so difficult to bring one example of a misconception you have? There are too many?
Not too many, you can't remember.
Or is it because even if you had a misconception, you wouldn't know you had one? Your understanding of Islam is I understand Islam. I'm not wrong. Somebody needs to tell you you are wrong, and then, okay. A woman's testimony in Islamic law is half that of a man's. Simple. Is that correct? Yes. Really? How come hadith scholars seem not to know about that? How come hadith scholars seem not to say, oh, this hadith is narrated by Umar, this one is narrated by Aisha. She's a female. We'll need 2 hadith by a female before we can bring it to the level of a hadith by a male. How come scholars seem to have no problem saying that actually in issues to do with childbirth, fostering, any subject where women were known to be more competent than men, a woman's testimony was stronger than a man's testimony? If men were more competent in the area, common sense, men's testimony would be stronger. If women were more competent, women's testimony would be stronger. If their competence was the same, there would be of equal testimony. How many rakahs for Taraweeh? Do you have that argument every Ramadan, dear?
Yes.
Yes. Whose hadith is bringing the problem? Aisha. Why don't they just say, it's just one woman, drop it. Wait a minute. Taraweeh is just our formalizing of tahajjud. Okay? Who know? Where was tahajjud done? Most of the Taraweeh that the Prophet did was done in the mosque or the house? House. Who would know better? His wives would know better. And if Aisha has an opinion, who are you to say that is just a woman? It's not about woman, it's about competence. If it was, okay, on the battlefield, all right, Aisha, we'll go with Umar here. On something that you would say this is an area where culturally men were better at, you would say that. But the point I'm making here is we have so many Muslims who just have a very simple formula for witnessing. And they honestly believe that is Islam's teaching on the subject. I'm talking about people who have graduated in Sharia. A woman's inheritance is half that of a man's, correct or wrong? Why does a daughter inherit more from her dead father than her grandfather inherits from his son who died? Okay, a man dies, he has a daughter, he has a father. Why is the daughter always inheriting more than her grandfather is inheriting? I thought women inherit less. Why, when they are boys, brothers and sisters, siblings of each other, and one son has no children, and the parents are not around, the brothers and sisters share the inheritance 50-50. Not 2-1. And in situations where the father dies, leaving sons and daughters, the sons inherit double what the daughters inherit. When you say how much does a person inherit, it depends on who died, how close you are, who else is alive, who's responsible for who. It's not a simple ratio 1-2. That would have made the subject very easy to divide. But it's not. In some situations, a woman inherits more than a man. In some situations, she inherits the same. In some situations, she inherits less. Many misconceptions we have about Islam, we don't know we have. Point I'm emphasizing here, when somebody differs from you on a topic, curiosity to try and understand where are you coming from, okay, is the intellectually most responsible thing to do. Humility is the most intellectually sensible thing to do. Arrogance of, no, you listen to me first, is the most stupid thing to do. I'm not here talking about humility and curiosity as spiritual values and moral values. That's true. But for somebody who is just interested in knowing the truth, they are imperative. You must be humble. Otherwise, you're just blocking your own learning. You just live longer with falsehood. So you must learn to respect differing views. The Quran and the Sunnah were divided into two types of verses. Those that gave what was called qat'i and dhanni. Qat'i meant it was categorically clear, unambiguous, no more than one meaning. When you've read everything on alcohol and heard everything on alcohol in the Quran and the Sunnah, you reach only one possible conclusion. It is haram. When you've read everything in the Quran and the Sunnah about extramarital sexual relations or murder or injustice, you reach only one conclusion. It is haram. Why? Because the verses together are so clear regarding what it could possibly mean. And so, no difference of opinion among scholars on that one. The nature of those verses, the language used, gives no room for more than one meaning. Such verses in the Quran or the Hadith are described as qat'i. But there's another group, which are the majority, that are described as dhanni. Dhanni means it is probabilistic. There's a level of speculation. There's presumption. We think we are sure of the meaning, but possibly it could mean something else. And because of that, you were going to have differences of opinion the moment the evidence was not qat'i. Sometimes they would describe the source itself. They would describe Quran as qat'i thubut. They would describe Sunnah, that is mutawatir, hadith that come from multiple chains. They would describe them and Quran as qat'i thubut. In other words, authenticity, no doubt. But the moment it was a single chain hadith, they said it is dhanni thubut. We say it is authentic, but we know there's a possibility that it's not. Your own qiyas, your own other forms of sources are described as dhanni thubut. So you've got the authenticity side, but then you've got the meaning. What does it mean? It could be qat'i dilala, which means explicitly clear and categorical regarding what it means, or it could be dhanni dilala. Madhabs or schools of thought, the field of ijtihad, where reasoning is going to come in, focus on handling dhanni. The moment dhanni came in and there was a level of speculation, usulul fiqh came as a tool to guide scholars. What do you do? Why? You have to start reasoning. Why? You can't comfortably say God said and God meant. No, that's one meaning. That's the meaning you understood. It could mean something else. How dare you say what I understood is what God meant when it could have more than one meaning? So the scholars, realizing that certain words and verses of the Quran were left ambiguous, mutashabihat, were left ambiguous. And sometimes they handled meaning that different generations picked a meaning that they felt this is more true for us. When you say the Quran says, halak al-insana min alaq, you look at the old tafsir, God created man min alaq. Alaq, for most of the older generation, was a clot of blood. Okay? Clot of blood. And anybody who today goes and looks at what's the first thing that starts in an embryo, it's the heart. Yeah. And that's just what it looks like, a clot of blood. For those who looked at the language later and said, this looks like a leech, they describe it as a leech-like thing. Why? Because that is what it is. And alaq also means that. But the verb alaq means to hang on something. And those who look at the growing embryo, its shape, and the way it hangs off the placenta of the womb, it is alaq. And so you find some translations, halak al-insana min alaq, Allah created man from that which clings, or that which hangs. Every generation looks, takes another meaning that is true. This is one of those miracles of the Quran, that every generation will look at the Quran, expound the tafsir, get meaning and guidance for that's relevant to them. Another will come, reality has changed, but the book seems to have edited itself. Same words, but for a different psyche. Another topic. Respecting dissent, scholars realized they had to come up with a subject called khilaf. And they compiled books on khilaf. Khilaf meant topics of dissent, subjects on which scholars differ. So books like Bidayatul Mujtahid, wa Nihayatul Muqtasid, and so on and so forth, Al-Mughni, and a number of these books. What's the purpose of these books? Why compile books of differing opinions? Why do you think the scholars did that? Why do you think the scholars would compile books of varying opinions on every topic? Sorry? How is it useful? Why not just tell us the truth? Why do you think a scholar would go about compiling books on topics on which scholars have differed? Good. You understand it more clearly. Why? Because you get to see there was another way, exactly, and another way of understanding it. And so that the arguments that took place before don't get repeated by ignorant people. And you also got to know who was holding that opinion. A woman embraces Islam. Her husband stayed as a non-Muslim. You read the books of Khilaf, how many different of opinions? According to Ibn Qayyim, 9 different opinions on that topic. 9 different opinions. From divorce immediately. No divorce after you ask the husband. If he says no, then divorce. No divorce after iddah. No, stay married but no sexual relations. No, stay married if the judge says it's safe for her. Stay married if you, the woman, think it's safe. Leave it alone. Stay married. If you have a problem, leave them alone. 9 different opinions by scholars. Not one. You may know what you grew up with, but the use of a book of Khilaf is to go and look again. And if you want, I'd like to dig into this topic a little deeper. When you hear some lady saying women can be led in prayers, men can be led in prayers by a woman, how dare she? Modern feminist, whatever. Hold on. Go and check a book on Khilaf. Did scholars differ on this? Yeah. Imam al-Tabari, he was a mujtahid imam of the Jariri madhab. Yeah. They had many madhabs. You've got the ones that survive now, basically about 8 of them in total. But you have Jariri madhab, Thawri madhab, many madhabs. Awza'i had a madhab. Abu Thawr and Imam al-Tabari took it that a woman who was more qualified, more learned, could lead a man in prayer. There's nothing modern about it. These were opinions before the West even existed, as we call it today. There's no Western influence, there's nothing Western. If you want to study the arguments, you can go and do that. Do you conclude it's strong or weak or just something to be respected? But don't break our unity. Scholars of the past have tried to give you guidance that on these scholars have argued, and they are scholars. Each one of them is a greater scholar than you. So handle it with respect. And if you were going to have problems with differences, they developed another field. They call the field the adab. The adab of ikhtilaf. Which meant the etiquettes or ethics of disagreement. The protocols of dissent. How to ensure difference of opinion does not lead to disunity. To understand that diversity of opinion was accepted within the unity of Islam. That unity did not mean uniformity. It never was uniform. The Ummah was never with clones of each other. There was diversity, and people who are normally not used to living with diversity. We prefer, I'm right, you're wrong. I've gotten to the truth. Scholars realize it's not that easy when you deal with zanni evidence. We will have to learn to agree, to disagree agreeably. So, respecting dissent and the importance of humility, curiosity, sincerity, and commitment. Humility in what you know and how you approach what you don't know. Curiosity in not just waiting to be told, but actively trying to find out where you may be wrong. And so Imam Shafi is quoted as having said, I pray Allah shows me the truth on the tongue of the person I'm arguing with. We would have liked Allah show him the truth on my tongue. Okay. But this is a prayer that tells you the heart of Imam Shafi. He is curious. Why? How is his prayer going to be answered on the tongue of somebody else? But he had the humility to also say that at the end of all the argument, with all his thoroughness, he would say, I believe I'm right, with the possibility that I'm wrong. And I honestly believe you are wrong, but with the possibility you're right. This is intellectual humility. So you're searching for certainty, but you really know, as they all keep saying, Allahu Alam. Allah knows best. And this is not just a platitude, it's a statement that governs their intellectual lives. A sincerity that you are searching for truth, not who wins the argument. Otherwise, ego defeats your entire purpose. All this is turned to nonsense. When instead of doing it sincerely out of ikhlas to serve Allah, you just want to be right. Who was right is not the issue. Have we gotten to the truth? And so Imam al-Nawawi says in the commentary in his 40 hadith, where the Prophet said, none of you is a true believer until he loves for the other what he loves for himself. Imam al-Nawawi says, if you love truth and guidance for yourself, you love it for the other. And he said that hadith, love for your brother what you love for yourself, is not just your brother in deen, but your brother in humanity. Many of us like to add the word brother in brackets. None of you is a true believer until he loves for his brother Muslim. That's not what the hadith says. It just says for his brother. Forget we're children of Adam very quickly sometimes. Emphasizing social obligation. Now, there's an area that is called Fardu Ain, which I would put as a branch here, which is individual. Obligation. And I'll put here capacity building. Okay. It's an obligation on yourself as an individual to live this life and get a purer heart. Nobody is responsible for purifying your heart. You should. All this sincerity, nobody does it for you. Okay. This search for knowledge is fard, compulsory on kullu Muslim, on every Muslim. It's not somebody else's job to be knowledgeable. Everybody should continue striving. It's like riding a bicycle. You know, you stop pedaling, you fall. That's a jihad bin nafs. It never stops. So, this is important, but it's not an end in itself. You know, you don't grow and that's an end. You become better in your iman for the purpose of amilan salihan, good actions. So you be better to do better. And you grow as a spiral grows. You know, you're growing, but you're also widening. As you become better, more knowledgeable, more compassionate, more humble, more curious, you also, as Allah wills, become more influential. And you can do more. The more you take your studies seriously, the more they shift you to another degree, and another degree. Without a degree, you'll probably be helping people park their cars. As you learn more, you start getting into the building and taking an office and taking a higher office. As you build your capacity, you build your own capability of fulfilling greater social obligations. And this is the role of a Khalifa, a representative of Allah on earth. And there's nothing new about this role. All the prophets taught human beings to grow and to do good. You know, doing good is just an expression of compassion. It's rahmah. In fact, your compassion and caring for others is the litmus test of whether you really have piety or not. If you believe you're a really good Muslim and somebody says, between you and Allah, when last did you show compassion to any, and you can't show it, stop deluding yourself. Yeah, that's a shaitan complex. I'm better than him. What did you do? Nothing. Oh, I believe in the hereafter. I believe in whatever. What is Allah's criteria for you believe in the hereafter? أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ? Allah is asking, do you know the kind of person who really doesn't believe he's meeting his Lord? He doesn't believe in the Day of Judgment? Allah says, فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُ الْيَتِيمِ وَلَا يَهُدُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. Is the kind of person who chides away the orphan and doesn't care about the feeding of the poor. The guy says, I believe. Allah says, no. You don't care about the following things, you don't believe. You're deluding yourself. If your iman cannot produce amilan salihan, go check yourself out. Don't delude, oh, I'm a Muslim, I'm going to heaven. That's self-delusion. Allah tells us among Ahl al-Kitab, among the Jews and the Christians, Allah says in one verse, وَقَالُوا, and they say, لَنْ يَدْخُلُ الْجَنَّةَ إِلَّا مَنْ كَانَ هُودًا أَوْ نَصَارًا. Okay. That the Jews say none will enter paradise except if you're a Jew, and the Christians say except if you're a Christian. You're a Christian. Allah says, تِلْكَ أَمَانِيُّهُمْ. That is their wishful thinking. Some of us Muslims do the same thing. Why does Allah tell you what happened? These people we call Jews and Christians, Ahl al-Kitab, these were Muslims during the time of their prophets. They only called Ahl al-Kitab because another prophet comes. So you say, you don't call them mushrikun, you say Ahl al-Kitab, people of an earlier revelation. Why is Allah telling you about them? Not bad-mouthing anybody. Just don't repeat their mistakes. They had revelation. They were chosen for a responsibility, but it got to their head. We're God's chosen people. So what? You get arrogant? Don't you see Muslims do the same thing? We're God's chosen people now. Kuntum khayra ummatin, right? We're the best people brought up for mankind. We're the best. We're the best. What have you done? Well, still the best. Like, you really think Allah buys that time? Emphasizing social obligations. Now here we'll touch something related to what we touched before. These things called the maqasid. The objectives of Sharia. And these objectives, generally two big classifications. Bringing benefit, what they call jalbul masalih, or darul mafasid, removing harm. Okay, that just summarizes what the whole of Sharia is about. All teachings of Islam are summarized as it is to bring benefit or to remove harm in this world and the hereafter. That's what Islam is all about. How do you live with the greatest amount of happiness in this world without jeopardizing happiness in the hereafter? How do you get a win-win? But by looking at what is the Quran trying to achieve, what's the Sunnah trying to achieve, scholars have tried to classify these maqasid. And they will tell you, oh, these maqasid fall into protection of life, an enhancement of life, of faith, family, mind, belongings and property. But it goes on, because there are other objectives of Sharia, like establishment of justice, freeing slaves, freeing people in bondage, etc., liberty. The prohibition of even using the skin of wild animals for clothing. Anybody who comes from an environmental perspective will appreciate environmental or respect for such species. We look at why is Allah telling us about a prophet who, when environmental catastrophe was happening or about to happen, Allah ordered him to save various male and female species of various animals, the protection of biodiversity. The Prophet ﷺ said, if the day of judgment was to come and meet you planting a tree, what did he say? Finish planting it. You stop and ask, day of judgment, I thought there's no more use for doing good when that time comes. But here's one thing, if the day of judgment was to come, do it. Then how important is planting trees? How important is protecting trees? I don't spend time. Environment, rights of animals, and you see it in the way you try to slaughter an animal in the most peaceful manner, and let's just say, etc. Unity is a maqasid of Sharia. Brotherhood is a maqasid of Sharia. Ease, yassir wa la tu'assir, facilitation, is an objective of Sharia. And so, when you look at all of these are the objectives of Sharia. This is what Sharia is trying to achieve. Do people have professions related to these? Does anybody work in the area of protecting life? Which jobs are those? Doctors? Nurses? Police? Firefighters? Soldiers? There are a lot of professions there. These are called, in Sharia, fardu kifaya. They are fard, which means they are obligations. They are kifaya because they are social obligations, not individual obligations. Individual obligations are called fardu ain. Okay? So your responsibility to build yourself. But somebody has to help you. And we need people who care. So in building your mind, people are in what field here? Building and developing the mind. Which subjects? Teachers, education. Lecturers. Psychology, very good. People with mental health problems. They're not saving your life, they're saving your mind. Or you're getting depressed, mind is not working. Or those who are handling the whole subject surrounding narcotics. You can look at those involved in da'wah, those in handling marital disputes, premarital counseling, child upbringing, financial literacy, the justice system, getting more freedom for workers, unions, environmental this, animal rights that, and those organizing all sorts of social interfaith, intercultural, interethnic that result in lita'arafu, that you get to know one another better. Because Allah puts that as the reason why He created diversity in, what is that ayah? Hujurat, where He created into nations and tribes. Yeah, lita'arafu, that you get to know one another. So, when we look at all of these, please, if you're in a job that is achieving this, don't say, what can I do for Islam? You already do it. Do it better. And be the best in that area. Oh, but I don't have time to go and study that one Kulliyah Sharia. Don't. That's for somebody else. Learn enough to have a general understanding, but be a master of something. Yeah, be a master of something. Excel, have itqan, have a level of excellence and professionalism with ihsan in an area. You could go into 2 areas, you could go into 3, but don't lose out on any, that you didn't do any. No. So you've got people who specialize in an area. But alhamdulillah, Allah has made them specialize in this area. And because of that, they are able to help people who are specializing in other areas. So this person who was handling your cancer helped support your activities here, which helped support this. And this business person created a job which kept his family sending their children to school and paid for the education of somebody who became a lawyer, who was able to make sure justice was done in greater liberty. And somebody went into environmental law and helped us protect more forests for the next generation. When you breathe fresh air, your grandchildren can also have fresh air. Because this is our Ilaha role, vicegerency. Day of judgment, you will be standing together with the last person to die, side by side with Adam and Eve. Whoever has done an atom's weight of good to anybody, justice is not just within a generation. We do intergenerational justice and intergenerational injustice. That's the idea of Sadaqatun Jariyah. You do something that will benefit people after you. So we won't spend time on this, but really it's not because it's not important. It's probably the most important. Handle your profession as a religious obligation with the niyyah to serve, and it becomes an ibadah. It becomes an act of serving Allah. And the Prophet said, the best among you, khairun nas, man yanfa'un nas. The best of mankind are those who are most useful to others. Time is not on our side. We'll rush through the last two. Embracing maxims. Now there are many maxims, but there are 5 that all schools of thought have accepted as minimum. Can anybody remember them? Okay. About 5 there? That's going to mess up. Okay, no problem. So, 1, intention. They have a statement, they say, al-umur bimaqasidiha. Okay? Al-umur bimaqasidiha. Which means matters are judged by their purposes. Part of the evidence for that is the hadith of actions are judged by their intentions. Okay? That intentions and purpose matter. That an action is going to be decided upon based on what purpose does it fulfill. It looks good, but it's creating harm. It is bad. Is it okay? This your business agreement? Yes, it's not against anything, but it is going to create a problem for that person, so we'll stop it. And in Usul al-Fiqh, that kind of reasoning is called Saddu Zariyah, where you prohibit something that is permissible in itself because of what it is leading to. There are many examples of that. When you hear Muslim scholars saying, it is haram to sell organs. That is my organ. I want to sell my liver, I sell my liver. I want to sell my kidney, I sell my kidney. But they say, no, haram. Which ayah of the Quran says haram? None. Which hadith? None. So what's your problem? They say, al-umur bimaqasidiha. That matter will be decided upon and judged as right or wrong based on what will be the consequences. If you were to allow people to start selling organs and buying it as a legitimate business, guess what will happen? All sorts of people disappearing off the streets. Why? It's a thriving business. Yeah. There's always some poor person. Listen, I'll give you 10,000 ringgits. Yeah. That'll help your daughter go to school and whatever. Yeah. Just want a liver. Just kidney. Will I die? Oh, maybe. Okay, I'll just get 1 kidney. Yeah. Poor people will start moving around with just 1 kidney. And you know as a poor person where to get your money. All right, I'll sell my blood. I'll sell my kidney. Okay, I'll sell my blood once a week. Okay, take 2 pints. All right, take another pint. Suddenly, the human body now has a value. The value of an eye, the value of a liver, the value of this, the value of that. And so they said, no, It's going to stay open. We invite people's altruism and desire to save life, and we let them know you save the life of a human being, it's like you save humanity. So purpose matters. You must plan. A Muslim must have a clear purpose in everything he does. Al-umur bi-maqasidiha. And it must be a good end. Second, certainty is not overruled by doubt. Al-yaqeen la yazalu bi-shak. That's how they put it. Al-yaqeen, certainty, is not overruled by doubt. Okay? So certainty, evidence, matters. You must be an ummah that is interested in burhan, proof. You know, when Allah says, "Qul hatu burhanakum," bring your evidence. Yeah. Something, Islam says, evidence. You hear some superstition, you want evidence. You do not pass on information just because people passed it on to you. The Prophet said, whoever keeps repeating what he hears is a liar. Yeah. Be somebody who is a filter. All sorts of conspiracy theories. Did you know, blah, 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 blah. Really? Stock market goes up, goes down. Pure speculation. Jobs created just because somebody that started some other rumor. And then, ad-darar yuzal. Hardship. Good. Hardship must be removed. And many verses of the Quran regarding the importance of that. La darar wa la dirar. You know, don't harm and don't reciprocate.
Yeah.
So anywhere in your profession where somebody is facing some hardship, it must be removed. Anybody suffering, it must be removed. You don't see suffering and you do nothing. Allah shows you suffering, not to kind of, why would Allah do this? What can you do about it? Yeah. Al-mashaqqa tajlibu al-taysir. That hardship calls for the relaxation of laws. You can't solve everything for everybody. So some difficulties, yes, they should be removed. But there are some things that you cannot remove the difficulty immediately. So you'll have to relax the laws for the people undergoing those difficulties. So you don't cut the hand of a thief in this situation. And yes, you are going through your periods, no problem. You don't need to fast now. You pay back later. Prayers, forget about them for now. You're traveling, you can join your prayers. You can shorten them. You can break your fast. You can this, you can that. And lastly, al-ada muhakkama. Custom, urf, good custom is a source of law. Don't tell people they have to change their name just because their name is a Chinese name or Indian name. Prophet didn't change anybody's names. Unless there was a problem with the name. He kept his own Muhammad. There are a number of other Muhammads who were not Muslims. He's the well-known one, Muhammad bin Abdullah. Aisha kept her name, Khadija kept her name, Umar kept his name. They all kept their names. If there's something wrong with the name, okay, then you change the name. What's your name? My name is Abdul Shams. Call it Abdullah. Servant of the sun? You call your name Servant of Allah. And your name? Abdul Izzah, servant of Izzah, the idol. I call it Abdul Rahman, servant of the Most Merciful. So if your name is Bilal, Ethiopian name, you give somebody a name, owner of kitten, Abu Huraira, or Khidr, that's green. You have Mr. Green. Mr. Asad, lion. Mr. Aswad, Mr. Black. Ghazali, gazelle. Antelope. Tiger Woods, completely Islamic. Respect custom, okay? And you respect the lineage. So somebody's name is Islamically okay, but his father's name is not. The family name is related to idol worship. Okay. The Quran says you call people by the names of their families, the names of their fathers. That's not his name. That's the name that helps us know his lineage. So you leave it. So as Shifa bint Abdullah bint Abdul Shams, and she kept it. Why? It's not her name. It's the name of the lineage. Al-Ada Muhakkama. A lot of these tools we find in Islamic finance, Mudaraba, Musharaka, Murabaha, etc., Ijara, these existed since Jahiliyyah. Okay. We call them Sunnah because the Prophet did them. Why? Because there was nothing wrong with them. If custom is good, it has the weight of law. When Allah says He has created you into nations and tribes, it's not for some cultural imperialism by one. Every language is one of Allah's ayat. The diversity He has created. وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ لَجَعَلَهُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً. Had He wished, He would have made you one. Don't look down upon the gifts and wisdom that He has taught mankind. Allama bil kalam, allama al insan. Allah taught man by the pen, taught man, not just Muslims. And lastly, setting priorities. There are two ways that Sharia classifies priorities. One is by describing certain things as fard or wajib, means it's compulsory. Another group is mustahab or mandub, encourage. Mubah, merely permissible, and then makruh, discouraged, and then lastly haram. We've used another color. So that's one way. The other way of classifying things is into three major categories according to priorities. So here, wajib and haram are number one most important things. Wajib you must do, haram you must avoid. Wajib, a sin if you don't do it, haram, a sin if you do it. Opposite side of the same coin. So it is haram not to do wajib. It is wajib to avoid a haram. The next in importance is avoid makruh and do mustahab. And then you've got mubah, the big group of everything is halal except what is haram. Eating durian. So one way of classifying priorities, of course, here. Second, so you do not argue about Taraweeh prayers such that you slept late after the argument and you didn't wake up for subuh. Okay, yeah, that's fard. This one is mustahab. You do not sacrifice this for that. You don't argue on an issue that is mustahab and break brotherhood, which is wajib. So you have to pick your fights. You don't break fard because you are arguing on something that was less important. These three, daruriyat, hajiyat, and tahsiniyat. Briefly, daruriyat are those absolute essential life necessities. Nobody in a community must have a lack or must have their daruriyat threatened. Okay? Don't threaten anybody's life. Don't threaten their faith. Don't threaten their family. Don't threaten their minds. Don't threaten their property. There are some here that are daruriyat. They are part of life's necessity. If you want a human being to live as a human being. Otherwise, if you threaten them, because Allah says, فَمَنِ اضْطُرَّ غَيْرَ بَاغٍ وَلَا عَادٍ, whoever's daruriyat are threatened, there is no sin on them when they commit a wrong. Okay? So, no food, and he steals, you cannot punish him for stealing. He had no alternative. Yeah. Life was threatened, he stole to get medicine to pay for his daughter. You cannot punish him for that. Yeah. Especially if there were alternatives. Especially if there were no alternatives. Hajiyat are the next below that, the next level of importance. Hajiyat are those instruments that protect society from falling into darura, or protect an individual from falling into darura. Okay? Hospitals, the training of teachers, the training of lawyers, the training of doctors. People who clear garbage. Okay. If they stop clearing garbage, would anybody die? Think about it. Would anybody die? No more garbage, no more sewage collection in Penang for 1 month. Would anybody die? Yes. It will threaten life. You will get into darura. Okay? Garbage collection becomes a darura. It's a fardu kifaya. If nobody is doing it, it is treated as a fardu ain. Everybody is responsible for making sure garbage is collected. Everybody do your own. Otherwise, we all suffer an epidemic. More people will die and war will create. So Hajiyat, that system in place to make sure things don't fall into darura. Tahsini, comfort zone. Kamaliyat, they sometimes call them. Those things which, once you're satisfied, you can now start thinking of how to help other people. Yeah. So tahsini is important because it's a level of comfort, a level of security that you have that makes it easier for you to start thinking of, well, let me help somebody else. Why? My family is okay. Because most people will not help until they are in a level of comfort. When you are not able to pay school fees, which is hajiyat, you will not start thinking of somebody else's school fees. That's why these three are maqasid. They are all objectives of Sharia. But regarding priority, these are the priorities. And so it becomes important for any Muslim society to ask itself, and for you as a Muslim to ask yourself, is there anybody suffering from a darura that I can help? Better still, that we can help. Yeah. Is there anybody suffering and my profession is not able to help them? Why? Because I only cater for the rich. The poor become your priority. Set up an NGO, set up a fund, do something to get people out of darura. That is your priority. Got a school, we're making some good money. Is it rich people's children? Yes. What are you doing for the poorest? That should be a concern. It's good you educate the rich. It's good you give them a good education. But don't forget, is there anybody else left behind? Basically, I would say this is one way of presenting how to be a better Muslim, to fulfill your purpose better, to be closer to Allah, and hopefully to understand the rahmah of Allah even more when you look at the kind of human beings that this system is trying to produce. You understand your Creator better. To conclude on 2 points. Number one, I'd like to emphasize on, or conclude 2 points, both related to capacity building, building yourself. Building yourself to be more trustworthy. Building yourself to be more trustworthy. The more trustworthy you are, the more responsibilities people will give you. But people are looking at trustworthiness on two main areas: your character and your competence. Your character, your integrity, your behavior. How upright are you? The second side to do with your competence. How skilled or educated are you? So if you're a teacher, or you're a computer technician, or you're a doctor, or you're a mechanic, you can have good character but poor competence. People won't trust you. Yeah, you're a nice guy, but you don't know how to repair the laptop. That doesn't help. They won't trust you. Or you've got good competence, but you'll steal spare parts and you sell them off. You need good character and competence for people to trust you. So it's not enough to just pursue education, but realize that you have to keep working on being a better human being, better character. What breaks marriages is not usually competence, it's character related. Yeah. A lot of close relationships depend on character. And in that regard, you know the story of the goose that laid the golden egg? So us oldies, right? There's a farmer, he had one of these Aesop's fables. He had a goose, and one day laid a golden egg. He thought like maybe somebody doing a practical joke. He tested and like it looks real. So he takes it to the goldsmith, and what do you say? That's a real golden egg. He makes a good amount of money from it. Wow. Okay. So he goes back and, waits a while, and the goose has laid another golden egg. Next day, another golden egg. The next day, another golden egg. This guy is getting richer. His wish list is becoming fulfilled. Buying this, buying that, bigger home, bigger this, bigger that. He's getting more impatient. He's got big plans and this goose is not cooperating. So they're like, wait, and walking up and down. Finally, I can't wait. So he gets a knife, lops off the head of the goose, opens it, one last small egg, and that's it. If you had a goose that laid golden eggs, what would you do? Sorry? Feed it, right? Yeah, give it cornflakes. Mostly, probably. If it's laying golden eggs, get a big plasma screen. Air conditioning. Heavy security, right? Yeah. Get it a mate. You would care for the welfare of the goose if you wanted sustained production of golden eggs. Everything you do for which people would pay you a salary, pay you for something, they're paying for the golden eggs that you are able to lay. What can you do to lay bigger, better golden eggs? Study more? Work harder? Spend more time? Be healthier? Build better relationships? Eat better? Take your prayers more seriously? What would you do to become a better human being? And lastly, since Brother Kamaruddin said we should end on that, inshallah, is a story of a little community. They lived by the sea. And lived on a lot of islands, actually. And they had a king who was getting old and had no child. And the king, before he died, told his people, when I die, whoever is going to be king after me should be king for only 5 years. After that, you take him in a boat, cross the sea to that island, and dump him there. That's the island where some years back, all the dangerous creatures on all islands were taken and put there. So if you're looking for lions and tigers and bears, they won't live together. But that's where you would find them. If it's snakes and anything dangerous, that's where you would find them. The king dies and they decide, okay, everybody knows the rule. Whoever's going to be king will be king for just 5 years. So who's going to be king? I said, I want to be king. Okay. So he's made king. First year passes, second year passes. Every day this guy is just in another party. Wants to marry this one, wants to marry that one, expand this, more furniture. 5 years comes, and on the first day of the 6th year, guards and everybody come and say, time to take you to the island. He shouts and screams and wails and it doesn't work. They put him on the boat, cross, drop him on the island, very bushy island. As they are moving away, they hear screams and growls and shrieks and roars and then silence. End of that story. All right, time for a new king. And the guy says, I want to be king. Okay, no problem. So he's made king. He parties more than the first guy. You know, gets a tailor. Every day I don't want to wear the same clothes. I must, really enjoy my life to the best of my ability. That guy, he thought he enjoyed life. I'll show him. And I don't want the same food cooked for lunch, breakfast, dinner, any day. Okay? Every week, bring me cooks from other parts of the world. And he partied, and the years passed by. At the end of 5 years, all right, first day of the next year, put, screaming, taken to the island, growls and shrieks and roars, and he's dead. That history. All right, who wants to be king? And this young man says, me. And Mike looks at him. Oh, come on, you're a cool guy, Why? I want to be king. Parents talk, friends, come on, man. It's not worth it, We'll miss you, we love you, you're a good guy, you're a helpful person. I want to be king. Okay, I want to be king. He's king. First year, he gets hunters, they go and gather all the animals on that island, put them into a nice zoo. Second year, get farmers on that island, move some industries and schools on the island. By fourth year, big market on that island. By the fifth year, he finishes building his house and even a bridge between that island and the main one. By the end, they come and say, okay, time to go to the island. Yes, and you're welcome to tea. And he goes, and he's got his house, and he entertains them, and life carries on. Life on this dunya is like living on the mainland. We don't know how long we'll be here for. But a time will come when we will have to leave. How well have we prepared for our hereafter? May Allah continue to help us all. Thank you for your time and patience. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
MashaAllah. Jazakallah, Sheikh Nurudeen. That was very, very enlightening. A lot of thoughts, especially the last part. And brothers and sisters, I think the message that we've got here, we all have misconceptions. Ego comes in, we have our own ways of living life. We always think we are superior. It's human nature. A person with a higher qualification, PhD, will be thinking he's superior to a master's, but the masters might be more intelligent. So life is like that. We need reminders like that. And at the end of the day, every person, every individual has a role to play in society. And it's very true. We are all capable of certain things. It's a gift from Allah. Some of us, it's a gift that we are da'is. Some of us, we are teachers. We are lawyers. We all have a role to play in society. If you go to Japan, those who clean rubbish on the roads, it's a very respected profession. And they are treated with respect fully. Here, we need foreigners to help us, but alhamdulillah, we give them jobs. Now, brothers and sisters, we are moving on to the next session, which hopefully will be quick. It's the question and answers. I would like brothers and sisters mainly to focus on the topic of tonight's lecture. Not for comments, it's for questions so that all of us will benefit. We'll start with sisters first, and then brothers. We'll see how much time we have, and then I don't think we can entertain all questions. So we'll start with sisters. Any sisters with questions?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. I'll try to make it very fast. As just now we are actually at the embracing differences where each person helps one another, and sometimes humans, they don't know what their purpose on the world, and sometimes they don't have their direction where they want to go. On this part, how would you advise them to actually to help them find their way for their direction?
We go question at a time? Or?
Yeah, one question at a time.
There's a number of books on this subject area, and a lot depends on what somebody is looking for. If it comes to, I just want to have a clearer purpose as a human being of my role on earth, the best book I would suggest is a book called The Alchemy of Happiness by Imam al-Ghazali. The Alchemy of Happiness. That gives one a sense of purpose. When it comes to narrowing down, depends on the person, depends on the age. You've got people who are career counselors who can help a lot. They specialize in trying to find out what are your strengths, what are your interests, what are your passions, and to help steer you in an area where you could make productive use and the best use of those gifts. And sometimes if you have got a good career counselor, they can actually help you narrow down by helping you realize some of the gifts you have that you yourself may not be aware of. From what do you find frustrating? What kind of topic comes up and you start to feel like boiling? Like for me, if somebody starts saying Islam says and they can't start presenting something really silly, that irks me. Like, not hungry anymore, kind of thing. And so I know that's an area I'm very interested in. For somebody else, probably, the moment you use the word health or cancer, they wake up, because that's an area they're interested in. For another person, it's something else. So it becomes useful for you to find what do you seem to be naturally inclined towards. Something that is useful. Sometimes some people just say, I don't know. And then it's useful to ask your friends. Because just like watching a football match, sometimes the audience can see better what's going wrong than those who are playing. What do your friends think you're good at? And you would sometimes be surprised that it's nothing to do with your school education, which is what I learned. I did agriculture in my first degree. I did resource management for my master's. It's my hobby, my side reading that was about Islam and comparative religion and these subjects. But I was always interested in many things. So I'm still with the Nigerian Environmental Society. I'm with the Regional Center of Expertise, this, and that. So that's my main area. We call it da'wah, or clearing misconceptions about Islam. So I think something that is useful is finding out from friends, what do they think you're good at? What do they think are your strengths? But really, shortcuts, see somebody who's a career counselor. They help you they help you move away from a job to a career and to move towards your calling. If you can get your calling, something that you're passionate about, you have the ability and readiness to be really good at it, and it is useful. If you can work in that area, that work gives you pleasure. You become one of the happiest people on this planet. When others are going to work, you're going to do what you love doing. Because you love doing it, you study it well. Because you study it well, you become among the best at it. And people pay you well to do what you enjoy doing. I mean, what could be better than that? Yeah. So you may need time, you may need help, you may need to read more, you may need to explore more opportunities and more and consult wider. But I think if you're not sure, just put more energy in it. Don't spend life until you're 50 or 60 or whenever, and then you want to start asking, what do I really want to do in life? You know, like, it's like driving and where are you going? I'm not sure. You know, like, so why are you driving? You're wasting a lot of fuel. So it's good to sort out that question as early as possible. And it doesn't mean you won't I mean, sometimes you're passionate about this and at one time you move away, but so be it. At least, you know, the journey is what matters. The destination is hereafter. So when you get there, when the time comes, but the key thing is something useful, something you're passionate about.
Brothers? Now we move to brothers. Any questions?
Sure, I have a question. Sure. For example, in a situation where that person is in a situation where he or she doesn't like whatever situation that's within him. I mean, for in terms of marriage, probably the lady or the husband doesn't like the wife, or the wife doesn't like the, you know. And then probably in terms of education, this person doesn't like the courses that he went through. I mean, how to tackle this sort of things in terms of his
Well, let's start with a simpler one. You're in a course you don't enjoy. It usually meant insufficient counseling, or you thought you would be interested in this. Once you got to year 2 or year 3, you felt, you know, that's not what I'm interested in. Usually for teenagers and young people, a year is a lot of time. And you know, if I pursue this career, I've got a friend, very close friend. He didn't pass his biology. He wanted to do medicine. But he didn't pass his biology, so he couldn't do medicine. And it was, all right, go and take biology again, but then you can't go into university this year. And he wanted to go straight. He got A's in everything else. And so family, everybody, come on, go ahead and do it. And he did his first degree in agricultural engineering. He then went to Pennsylvania State University and did his master's degree there with a distinction. He came back. He became a head of department of the faculty in a university. But he said, I don't enjoy this. And he said, 30, I think at that time I was about 35 years old. And I can't imagine, I'm going to do this till I'm in my 60s. So he went and registered for biology. Last year, he's in his housemanship, he'll be finishing maybe, he's not a doctor, but he will be officially Dr. Hadi this year. And he loves it. You need to decide how important your happiness is to you and what it is worth. Invest another 5 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is. Or, if your passion doesn't require your going to school is good, but it's not necessary. People in the IT industry, I mean, most degrees and certificates in IT become obsolete, they expire within about 2 years. And if you feel you're in a field that is really rapidly changing, something tied to engineering, something tied to technology, then probably you should just do a few side courses. If you're passionate about it, on your own you will read enough to catch up with the experts in that field. How much reading do you need to do to get a master's degree? Even a first degree. You probably don't need to read more than about 5,000 pages. 7,000. When you look at pages, and you say a 500-page book is this size, how many books this size would you have to read for a master's degree? Let's even say you needed to read 10,000 pages. Okay? If you had a habit of reading, you love reading, and you could read what? 20 pages a day? 30 pages a day? Take it you only read 10 pages a day. In 1 year, that's 3,650 pages. In 2 years, that's over 7,000 pages. In 2 years. Okay, that's over 7,000 pages. But not just that. You like listening to audiobooks on your subject area on your way to work. It's 30 minutes going, 30 minutes coming back. 30 minutes going, 30 minutes coming back. At the end of 2 years of that kind of lifestyle, of just reading 10 pages a day, in 2 years, you've gotten what's nearly equivalent to a diploma or master's degree in that field. Now imagine if you had the habit of reading 20 pages a day. It'll not appear on your CV. It doesn't appear on your CV. But what's a CV supposed to do? A CV is just to buy you the interview. Prepare a CV that is truthful. Most of them aren't too truthful. All you want is get to the interview. And if you've been doing that kind of reading for the last 3, 4, 5 years, the moment you open your mouth, somebody who knows that area, is passionate, will identify you just like that. Yeah. You know, like in this area of da'wah and Islamic interfaith, whatever, I've been in it. You know, I've been passionate about this area since I was in secondary school. They put me as president of Muslim Student Society there, and every question, okay, Nuru, go and answer. Your dad is Sheikh Lemu, he's a Sharia court judge, so, and your mom has written textbooks on Islamic studies. If anybody can answer, if you can't answer, you know where to get the answer. That's how I tried to go steered. I'm not sure that's where I wanted to go to, but I loved it. Alhamdulillah, I love it now. But where I work, I'm a director of research and training of the Dawah Institute. I can ask somebody 3, 4 questions. You know whether you want to recruit him or not. And how he answers this question. And you know, you ask a few questions, you know whether this person really cares about this. Is this his calling? Or is he just looking for a job? And as soon as he gets a better paying job, he'll move. Well, he might as well move now. So I feel if you're passionate about something, even if your degree is not in that area, you can study it enough. Volunteer in that area. That's how, see, if you volunteer in a place that is interested in your skills, it's a way of bypassing an interview. It's a way of you joining a workforce for nothing, but you have the opportunity for them to get to know you. You know, the moment there's a meeting, the moment there's anything, you are there, you share your ideas, that's kind of like, where did you come from? And that's where people get to know you. And somebody starts giving you an interview and they kind of, you know what, yeah, could you do this? Yes. And you could give advice and you're proactive, you've got good character, you're competent in your area. Who doesn't want better talent? They don't wait for the time to interview. When you see a good person, any good manager, even if they don't have a space for you, they will recruit you and keep you. And they will create the space because they're looking for top talent. And that's what people are looking for everywhere in the world. Regarding marriage, when marriage is not going well, it could be many things. There's an interesting study about marriages, a longitudinal study. They're studying marriages over a period of about 25 years. And they made a list of about 15 of the most common reasons why marital couples fight. You know, why do they quarrel? What's the fight about? They quarrel about chores, they quarrel about sex, they quarrel about money, they quarrel about in-laws, they quarrel about this, they quarrel about that, a whole list of things. What they found was marriages that had nearly no conflict in year 1 had the highest divorce rates by year 3 and 4. Marriages that had the highest conflict in year 1 had the least amount of divorces in year 3 and 4. There was no correlation between frequency of conflict. Before we come back to that. What they found, therefore, here was those who quarreled and fought in year 1 quickly got to know each other, and what they liked and what they didn't like. Those who had no quarreling were bottling things up. They didn't want to fight, so they didn't give each other the opportunity to know and understand each other. They bottled it up. But as they bottled, they got more resentful of each other. They lost respect. So when finally they came to bring it up, they brought everything up, and they brought it in a way that was hurtful. One interesting other study, which is probably more relevant to the point you're making, was this 25-year one. After looking at all the things people were quarreling about in their first 5 years, 20 years later, they followed up with these people to see how many of them were still married. And of those marriages that were still successful, they wanted to find out, of all these problems, how many of them, the things you were arguing about in year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, how many have you resolved 20, 25 years later? And they found that 20, 25 years later, they were still arguing about 70% of the issues. Like less than 30% had been resolved. So those who were in family therapy, marriage counseling, began to realize what breaks family is not the issue they're arguing about, something else. What transpires is the way couples quarrel, the way they fight, not what they fight over. One type of fighting which is good and healthy and should be encouraged is fighting that is characterized by mutual respect, by adab, by complaint. The second type, which is not too good, is conflict that is characterized by criticism. The worst type is conflict that is characterized by contempt, disrespect, insult, belittling the other person. The moment that was the type of conflict, the issue was no more the issue. Okay? You're late. I'm sorry, I came back from work and you're always late. Even your dad comes late. Your mom says so. We're like, what's it got to do with my dad? Even your mom, whatever. What do you say about my dad? The topic of your being late is no more being addressed. You've compounded the topic with something else. Every time an issue comes up, another thing becomes a problem. The issue is not resolved. It keeps compounding. If you don't have the character and the kind of adab and akhlaq and behavior and integrity to handle issues politely with respect, then even if the issue is not an issue, it is how you fight it out that becomes a problem. So when people say they've lost love, they've lost this, they've lost that, it's important to know, what did you do to lose it? I would say just one more point. Many young couples get married and they wear masks, they wear a persona. You know, like guy sees girl, he likes her, she likes him, they fix a time to meet, he dresses better than he normally dresses. And she dresses better than she normally dresses. He'll actually go and dig up some jokes just to be, have a nice sense of humor. And she'll also be more polite. And even though she says something that would have ticked her off, no, she will act calm, more sober, like everything is extra good. And they fall in love. They get married. That's not how they are all the time. That's their personality, that's not their character. But now they are married, they're going to live with each other, their character starts to come out. They start to remove the mask. They start to be themselves. She says, you've changed. He says, you've changed. You are not like this. You too, you are not like that. And unfortunately, some hormones, two in particular, vasopressin, oxytocin, responsible for this high feeling of euphoria around love, starts to die down. And they have not worked on building better trust, better respect, knowing each other more deeply as human beings. They have not worked on that. They thought the hormones will solve the problems. Those hormones don't last. They're not productive. Think about it, okay? Think of the time you fell in love with somebody and you're always thinking about them, sending texts and emails, on the phone, when you're at work, you're doodling, you're writing their name in a very beautiful way and everything. Do you honestly believe you'd get promoted in your work if you just carried on that way? You don't read, you don't anything. This person is, they're everything. It doesn't last. It's good for bringing you together, but it's not strong glue. Glue is the trust and mutual respect you can build. Yeah, that needs effort. And unfortunately, there's very poor premarital counseling in most societies. Many people aren't prepared about that. Love will conquer everything and they don't even know what it is. And they take relationships for granted, and that's the worst thing you can do. So, yes, there are many problems and each one needs to be diagnosed separately, but just generally, I think we need to study more about marriages. Society seems to give more value to the amount of education you need before you are permitted to drive a car than the amount of education you need before you're allowed to get married. Even though in marriage, damage can happen to children and to those involved. And I think it's our responsibility, part of protection of family, for Islamic organizations, to organize courses in all of these areas. Otherwise, you just go into it. When they say divorce rates in some societies are as high as 40%, 50%, there's a tendency to believe that, that statistic doesn't apply to me. Like, why not? So I think need for us to, just as a community, anybody passionate in that area, start something. Yeah. And, it's a big question. Sorry for talking too much.
Jazakallah Sheikh. I think time has caught up. It's almost 11 p.m. I think we'll end the question and answer session. Brothers and sisters, once again, our profound appreciation to Sheikh Nurudeen Lemu and the questioners. May Allah bless and reward all of us with Jannah. Ameen. We now invite our President, Tuan Haji Kamaruddin Abdullah, accompanied by Brother Taufiq, to present a souvenir to our distinguished speaker today, Sheikh Nurudeen. We welcome Sheikh to the front. Jazakallah. Thank you, Brother Kamaruddin. Thank you, Sheikh Nurudeen. Brothers and sisters, before we leave tonight, I would like to announce our upcoming IPSI activities. Inshallah, this Saturday, 29th of August, there will be ATMT training, awareness through mosque tour by Brother Kamaruddin, who will guide us in regards to what are the do's and don'ts, where we guide tourists and not yet Muslims who wish to learn more about Islam, the questions that we need to address, how do we answer with wisdom. Inshallah, there will be a lecture on this Saturday at IPSI from 9 a.m. There will be da'wah training, street da'wah training on Sunday, this Sunday at 9 a.m., 9 till 1. It will be done here. There are revert classes conducted every Friday for our new brothers and sisters who joined Islam. That's every Friday night at 8 p.m. And Quran classes for sisters every Saturday at 2:30 p.m. For those who are interested to join this coming Saturday and Sunday events, the ATMT training on Saturday and Da'wah training on Sunday, please register your name at the back. And we thank your participation today. And please do visit our bookshop downstairs. And we, Alhamdulillah, we run this organization, this NGO, with donations from our brothers and sisters. Remember that every cent you donate, you will be rewarded in the hereafter. Do not have high expectations on the reward in this dunya, but have patience, for Allah rewards those who have patience and for those who help in His path. May Allah ease your problems that you have in your lives. May Allah heal and cure the illness you have. He is the one who knows all, who hears all. The cure lies in Him. Have faith. Never lose faith. No matter what problems you have, there are people who have worse problems than you. You are alive today, and there are people who are dying in the ICUs of many hospitals. Have you ever thought that? You are breathing here when there are many patients on breathing machines who are no longer conscious and who are probably not going to regain consciousness, and the angel of death is just around the corner. Alhamdulillah. Remind yourselves that, as what brother said, we have two angels. Luckily, we can't see them, so that we have total freedom. And inshallah, may Allah reward all of you. So we end tonight with Tasbih Kifarah. Brothers and sisters. Oh yeah, one final announcement. If there are any not yet Muslims here tonight who would like to express their wish to enter Islam, the fold of Islam, they can do so tonight. We are here, we are able to facilitate. If you are here to enter Islam, please let us know and we will do it at the front here. If there's anybody here. Inshallah. If not now, inshallah, very soon. We end with Tasbih Kifarah and Wal-As. والأس إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.